The heroine's journey is something that comes to us through dreams. Now, sometimes they might be waking dreams when you tap into your intuition and something comes that you're not even thinking about. All of a sudden, there's a flash of something that comes to us, tapping into that intuition. So I had this dream, and when I woke up from the dream, I was in a fantastic mood, even though it was 30 below zero Fahrenheit in Chicago, and there were snow drifts, and I was so poor at the time, I went into my dad's garage because I didn't have any gloves, but he only had these rubber kind of electrician gloves that they can squeeze onto things. So when I would go outside, they would like freeze, and these gloves would like pop open like this. So I'd like be running to the subway, with these kind of gloves, just praying that my whole body didn't freeze like this. So I had one of these dreams, and have you ever had a dream where you fall in love and you wake up and you have that feeling in your body? Creating stories that are heroine's journey is not kind of based on what you know or who you know. It's really based on your body awareness. My mentor, Gene Houston, always said that we have stories inside of us. If people will say they have a near-death experience and their whole life passes before their eyes, you've heard that experience? Well, my mentor, Gene Houston, who I'll be talking a lot about, will be doing some of her exercises. She said that this actually happens, that images can move that fast. And so it's our job, and one of the purposes of the heroine's journey is to allow the images to come out, because the stories are in our cells, they're in our bones, they're in our DNA. That's why stories have been with us for all time. So the heroine's journey is not about a self-willed effort to be successful. It's about becoming a vessel or becoming open and allowing the images to come out. This could be through dreams, and it can even happen just when you're walking down the street. So the dream that I had was that I was working for a film company that was called Mediocre Movies. Yeah. And the mission statement of Mediocre Movies was, first of all, you had to have fun. You had to do the best you can working in a group. This is more heroine's journey stuff. And your main function in the team is to support everyone else in the team to do their best work. And if some of you have done improv, you know that, and you're on the stage, you can't be thinking about what your next joke is going to be, because then it's all over. Or if you tell a joke, you can end the improv, some kind of clever joke, it'll end the improv right away. Just kind of start to think about shifting from this idea of self-centered, which it's so easy to be, into more group-centered, because that's the whole import of the heroine's journey. So Mediocre Movies had a huge Hollywood-like sign, but it was in orange neon, and it said, Mediocre Movies, and underneath it, the motto was, why settle for less? Yeah. It's like, why settle for less? So over the years, what I realized is that what, let's just say, the goddess, the dream weaver was saying to me was, let go of perfectionism. Because in the scripts that I had written, even though I had attracted this A-list talent, I was trying to write perfect scripts and do it perfectly. And that was, as a way, as I realized, as I was trying to avoid criticism and rejection. So I just wanted to be kind of the golden boy and do everything right. And after this, I had complete writer's block until I had this dream. And what I've learned, and when I work with writers' rooms and I work with groups like you guys, and that the most kind of efficient and productive way of doing things is not just to lower the bar of excellence that you're trying to achieve, but just get rid of the bar. Yeah, you don't really need it. And if you're having trouble writing, or if you're feeling blocked or you're feeling frustrated, and this is going to sound strange, but sit down and do your best to write a mediocre movie. Because whenever I sit down to write a mediocre movie, it's brilliant. And whenever I sit down to write the next Academy Award-winning movie, it goes it gets deleted. This has to do with another really important motif of the heroine's journey, which is that judgment freezes reality. Judgment freezes creative flow. So when we're in judgment, especially when we're in judgment about ourself, and we all know these kind of voices, sometimes we're writing and it's just flowing, or we're out shooting documentaries and everything's going well. But you might get to a certain point where you hit a crisis. Now, the crisis in the heroine's journey is, as from the I Ching, it's danger plus opportunity. But when we hit these crises, and this is part of the inner heroine's journey I'll be talking more about, this is usually when we start to experience self-talk. So how many of you, when you've been working on a project, whether you're shooting or editing or writing, get to a certain point where things don't seem to be working like you wanted them to work anymore, and you start to hear some voices? And what are the voices saying? Are they friendly, supportive voices? No. So what are what? You suck.
What will people think?
Yeah, right. What other?
Ain't good enough.
Ain't good enough. Yeah, it's a good title for a song. You don't know what you're doing. What else? What other?
Who are you to be doing this?
Absolutely, yeah. Who do you think you are to be doing this? Yeah. What other voices do you hear?
You're not good enough yet.
Right. Yeah. And then it can be, you're too young, you're too old, you're too wide, you're too tall, you're too small, your feet hurt. You know, it's kind of endless. So this is where the heroine's journey actually begins, when you hit these kind of walls, because they're walls of self-judgment. And as we experience what's going to be the whole expanse of the heroine's journey, that the heroine's journey is not about getting outer approval, because what we'll see in the heroine's journey, that no matter how much outer approval you get, there's going to be an empty space inside of you if you haven't gone on the journey. It's about inner approval. And specifically, it's about valuing things inside of us that are not being valued in the status quo reality. So it's about valuing your creative spark. Nobody's going to do this for you. You may find mentors that help you out. You may have people that are supportive. But when you really get down into the dark, shadowy part of your work, and every project seems to kind of go to this place, that what we see in the heroine's journey is that we need to learn how to value these feminine principles inside of ourselves, because they're not going to get valued outside. So compassion, intuition, creative spark, generosity, relationship building, all of these things. And it's really about learning that if we can be fully present and just be where we are, that's allowing the stories to come out. So it's kind of moving from this doing. I mean, how many of you have gone through stages where you feel like you need to be doing something all the time? Yeah. And how many of you feel at times where there's too much to do and not enough time to do it? Yeah. Okay, so these voices are called threshold guardians, and we'll be talking about threshold guardians, but they appear to be antagonistic, but what they're doing is that they're really testing to see if you're going to have the wherewithal and the perseverance, and most importantly, the patience to go on the journey. So it's a good practice that when you find these voices starting to happen, they're called self-talk. And self-talk is something that comes from fear. And fear is something that comes from being wounded. And everybody on the planet experiences being wounded. Just being born and separating from the mother is the first wounding. Most woundings have to do with separations. So these are some of the kind of overall, this is like a way to kind of look at the big picture of the heroine's journey. But this mediocre movie's dream is something that has stayed with me all of these years. And it's always a reminder to let go of perfectionism. Because what happens when we want to be perfect? We're performing. And what happens when we're performing? When we perform, we're putting on a persona. And when we're putting on a persona, we're putting on a false self. That's not who we are. And so in the biggest way of looking at things, the most important thing, and everybody is on this heroine's journey, the most important thing is to remember to breathe. Because what you'll see is that when these voices are going, if you remember to breathe and you remember that you've got a body to come into your body, that this is when these voices will stop.